Hey friends, Diana here. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to offer a quick content advisory. This conversation is powerful, honest, and necessary, but it's also raw. We'll be discussing topics like pornography, erectile dysfunction, sexual addiction, and the mental health struggles that many men face, some of which may be difficult or triggering for certain listeners. While everything is shared through a compassionate, clinical, and faith-informed lens, this episode is not rated G. If you're listening with little ones around, you may want to press pause and come back to it later. As always, this conversation is not a substitute for therapy, and the views expressed reflect the lived experiences and insights of our guests. All right, let's get into it. Welcome to the Holistic Counselor Podcast, where we hold space for honest conversations that bridge faith, neuroscience, and the deep work of healing. I'm your host, Diana S. Rice, licensed mental health counselor, certified integrative mental health professional, and founder of Through the Valley Therapy and Transform Mind Consulting and Coaching. This show was created for those of us doing the work, the therapists, the seekers, the survivors, anyone who knows that true transformation doesn't come from surface level solutions, but from integrating mind, body, and spirit in a way that honors both science and soul. Here, we don't just talk about diagnoses. We talk about root causes, spiritual wounds, nervous system repair, and how to reclaim your story with compassion. Today's guest, Daniel Rubin, is a licensed professional counselor and licensed mental health counselor with over 16 years of experience across some of the toughest clinical environments: psychiatric hospitals, prisons, addiction treatment centers, and now his own men's only intensive outpatient program, Transcend Wellness.
Yay.
When Daniel reached out to share his story with me, I felt an immediate connection to the mission behind his work. And after meeting him at Amanda and Vanina's Clinical Collective event a couple of weeks ago, I knew this conversation would be different. So, if you've ever loved a man who silently struggled, if you are that man, or if you're a clinician trying to support this population with more integrity and depth, this episode is for you. Wow, let's talk about the truth behind men's mental health, the power of vulnerability, and what it means to rebuild from the inside out. Daniel, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. I have to admit, I'm a little nervous, so bear with me if I stutter or like need a breath, but I have anxiety like most people.
All right. And
Yeah.
that's the thing, that one word anxiety, like, and it could be part of our personality. It could actually be the true diagnosis in the DSM of anxiety. It could be so many things. And sometimes I think it's because we don't have a lot of words for it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like we're not taught these things. I mean, I think they just started I know in the Broward County school system with social emotional learning. Can you imagine? But let's not go there yet. But like these are the things that have been needed. I would think fitness, finances, and social emotional learning in our society would be in such a different headspace. But then again, here we are, right? So let's talk about your story. It's
Okay.
super powerful, Daniel. Like when you shared what you shared with me, I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait to have this conversation with you. From addiction to transformation, can you share the moment you realized success on the outside meant nothing without healing on the inside?
So when this was presented, it brought up a lot of stuff for me, especially like when was that specific moment? And I had to like start by going back into the journey. And I remember like the very beginning of the journey was the idea of success was like the big first thing that I learned as a child. And that was the idea of like being better than my dad.
Mm,
So my dad was a PhD therapist. We lived a very nice life. Um,
wow.
but, you know, it wasn't really taught in my household about like fulfillment or internal success. It was really the external things that we saw. So from an early age, the first driving things, the first like desires were based on the achievement of material stuff, right? And then as I grew up and got into middle school and high school, there was the social acceptance. That was my next version of success. Like, I need to be accepted by my peers. I need to be accepted by the people around me. And I strove for that. And that introduced the world of substances to me. I am somebody that has the anxiety. I have depression. I have some ADHD. I might be on the spectrum. Like, it was not an easy world for me socially. Like, I
Hmm.
remember my mother telling me like I really struggled making friends.
Hmm.
And it was hard, but as soon as substances came into play, it was like the go-to thing for me. And especially where I grew up, Myrtle Beach, South Carolina is like a party town.
Okay.
And it's just like a southern thing too. Like, boys go out and drink and it's okay as long as you don't get hurt. So
Right.
again, I found myself really lost, but like hanging on to something. Like, all right, if I'm the coolest person, if I'm the person that parties the most, I'll be okay.
Hmm.
Right. And that carried me through college, where again, the idea of popularity and partying was like my found identity. Still
Right.
very lost, but at least I had something.
Hmm.
Um, and in college actually is when I first started to get into trouble. Arrested
Wait.
for 4 felonies
Wow.
my
Wait.
freshman year
Of college.
of college.
Why'd
Robbed
you
a
get?
drug dealer.
Oh, what?
Yes.
You robbed a drug dealer for the drugs, then I take it because
Yes,
you
because
wanted
it's
them?
it's the perfect crime because they're
Yeah.
not going to report it, of course,
Right.
in my
Yeah.
mind,
Right.
but they
Well,
did.
so you were still able to go to college and get a college degree while this other life is happening.
Yes.
Interesting.
Fully like functioning for a
Hmm.
lot of people in a way that you would look on the outside and be like success. Like, I did really well in high school. Like, my parents told me back in the day, they were like, we always thought you would outgrow it. Like, there was signs
Hmm.
all along, but I think as parents, being a parent now, like, we do not want to see our kids hurting or something's wrong with them. And it's like
Right.
a lot of us will put on the blinders and
Yeah.
just hope that they'll be okay.
Yeah.
And that like first experience, especially with the 4 major charges, was like a wake up call for everybody.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
as a good addict, which I am, I'm a very good drug addict.
Okay.
Um, I was pulled out of college out of Clemson for a semester. I went
Wow.
home to Myrtle Beach. I
Okay.
enrolled in Horry Georgetown Technical College, got a 4.0, did amazing, worked at a law firm, right? Was sober for 6 months,
Yeah.
to show people that it wasn't a problem.
Yeah.
Like, I did enough, and this is like when I talk to people in recovery often that are brand new to it. I'm like, hey, look, we're probably on letter A of the alphabet of your story.
Hmm.
Like, for a lot of people, especially me, this has been a lot of pain to fully buy into
Right.
the fact that I needed to shift. Um, but I got to come back to college. I graduated.
Yeah.
And then I was on to my next attempt at fulfillment, which was a
Okay.
career, right?
Right.
I'm going to make money. And once I make money, it'll go back to that earlier idea of being better than my dad, having a big house. I got into TV advertising because I had no idea what I wanted to do.
Right.
But advertisers make money,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And I did that for a couple of years. And I remember having a very clear conversation with my boss. She was like, listen, you could keep this job, but you're never going to get promoted. Like,
Oh,
well, she knew.
right.
She was like, "You're not into this." Like,
Right.
and
You
I
just
didn't like it. Like,
Well, it was to me, let me ask this question then. It was to to me, it sounds like a lot of the things that you chose to go into was due to either this narrative of the stories that were told to you. So in your brain that made sense, but in your heart it wasn't there, or you didn't know yet because you were still trying to figure out who you were or are. And so I want to go back a little to the addiction part of
yeah,
it because you said you started, I mean, You're talking like the typical, because I did drugs too,
Mhm.
okay? Like, and I know that why it was first because curiosity. Second, then it was more of like, oh my gosh, this is easing my anxiety and my depression and my pain and my loneliness and all that stuff. And then third, it was like, oh, I could get away with like going to school with the bottle people thought I had was orange juice, but it had vodka in it, because we were trying to function in a world that didn't give us the tools we needed, right? So when did you start doing, can
Using?
I ask?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Was
oh,
it middle school?
12.
Yes. Why
Yeah.
is it that's the age? I mean, I think it's because we figure out like, oh my gosh, the world is first it's like our parents, we knowing like this is our only thing we know.
Yeah.
And then in middle school is when we figure out like, wait a minute,
Well, middle school's such a odd age. I think it's the
so
hardest
hard.
age for
Yes.
kids, like puberty, everyone's finding their social circles, you're in this weird body,
Yeah.
like everything. And then Myrtle Beach, like there was such it was just everywhere. Like
Mhm.
either we knew people that own nightclubs, strip clubs, like there was just access
To
to a
so
lot
much.
of stuff at early ages. And
Hmm.
there is that old Southern old boy kind of reputation, like of the good old boy who, like,
Yeah.
it's a thing. Like,
It is a
kids
thing.
drink beer with their dad. Like, my dad was not that person, which I
Right.
was always like, I wish he was.
Right.
It was like a weird relationship a lot of kids have where it was introduced very early.
Hmm.
The idea of drinking marijuana was okay. I mean, cocaine was introduced really early. I remember
Wow.
prescription drugs became available really early.
Wow.
Yeah, like way before any of
And
the
and
opiate.
that happened here in Broward County too. Let me tell, because I came here. I actually came here in sixth grade. I grew up in New York, but that what you're saying, I think it's not just. I mean, it is cultural. I get it because I married a Southern boy,
Yeah.
so I get the cultural thing. But I also think it has a lot to do with what we're looking at and TV. I mean, come on, television, like the high school
Yeah.
mindset is that's it. Let's party, let's party, let's party, let's sleep around, let's party.
And no one, like everyone I know has been to rehab from my hometown, but nobody talked about it. Like it was this like just kept secret
Mm,
that, most of us had some type of problem,
yeah.
but it was a family, it's that white picket fence. Like you see the picture of the successful parents and the 2.5 kids, and everybody goes to college, like very nice suburban areas
Hmm.
with a lot of hidden secrets,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
yeah, I mean that I see that too. I was substitute teaching before I came back to being a therapist while I was in the film industry to supplement my
Mhm.
income. And I was working at one of the most prestigious private schools in South Florida. Okay, as a substitute teacher. I used to call it the cruise ship.
Yeah.
But I remember because I worked in the inner city community mental health. So it was just two different, I mean, anxiety and depression were in both, but it was due to two different mindsets because I know a lot of them, these are really super rich judges and lawyers and doctors, and they come from intergenerational old money. And I get that mentality where it's like, oh no, we can't even talk about, like why are you chopping up ADHD medicine to inhale it?
Oh, yeah. And the cover up just it like for me,
Hmm.
it continued my addiction. Like I love my parents,
Yeah,
but
and
there
we all
was a
do.
lot of enabling because I had access. Like no one with my criminal history should not have gone to prison. Like I've been charged with 13 different felonies. Never convicted. I know, it's crazy.
Oh no, you must come from real money then, dude, because my people, if that happened, we'd be in jail.
Listen, I've talked to many people in recovery that like they're like you are the one of the luckiest people ever,
Yeah.
and it's truly like it's a miracle that I did not end up, doing major time.
Yeah.
But it's because white male with some money, it's a different scenario.
It
Yes,
is.
it did increase the pain I felt,
Yeah.
but it is a real thing that needs to be said. You
Talked about and said and acknowledged and understood without the shame, the guilt, and the judgment, like you just said, because we're not judging your folks. So
know?
if your folks are listening, we're not judging you. it's learning to understand the situation so we could become better human beings and not continue to pass on generation after generation, trauma after trauma. So let's go into men's mental health now that you said
Okay.
white men, but
Yeah,
this, I think some of this stuff could be a socioeconomic situation, or it could be, which means it hits different cultures too, or we could
sure.
pick out pieces because of I'm not a man. I have no idea what you guys go through. I could
Yeah.
try to understand, but like right now, when I was working with adolescents and the younger men that I do serve, I only have a couple of men clients now. I work with women more than anything now, but they identify as incels
Oh
or
yeah.
drawn to influencers like Andrew Tate. First of all, if someone is listening and they don't know what an incel is, can you explain what that is?
It's basically like I am involuntarily choosing celibacy is the foundational piece, right? And they tend to be um pretty socially isolated as I was, looking into this stuff and more and more research is coming out. You're seeing that, about I think one study I read, about one third of them only reported having one friend. So imagine, right? As much as like the internet and stuff has connected us, I do feel like our technology has bypassed our biology. And like we're very tribal. We were tribal for a reason and we did really well as a tribe. Like there was a study, I think women, single mothers in the 1960s had an easier time raising a single or a child than
Mm-hmm.
today
Mm-hmm.
because the community
Yeah.
helped.
Yes.
Everybody knew that person, everybody knew the kid. They stayed at different houses. Like it was way
The
different.
village.
Yes. And in today's world, yes, we have the internet, but it is very isolative. Like the
Mhm.
fact I can sit on my phone and feel like a part of a community sometimes is not the same as sitting in like a group therapy circle.
Exactly.
So for a lot of these guys that involuntarily have chosen celibacy, basically like they are having trouble having sex.
Yeah.
Right? And because of that, it just fueled a lot of anger. And
Hmm.
then from that, the internet has started being like a ground for them to find community.
Right.
And under it too, there's huge numbers in terms of the stats of mental health issues. I
Yeah.
think 75% reported having severe depression, and then I think it was around another 45% are struggling with severe anxiety.
Hmm.
So you get a bunch of community, right, that don't know, that aren't really educated about emotional well-being, about emotional health, about emotional intelligence, feeling all this stuff. And right, what do men do? Most of us, like one of our things with depression, anxiety, is it comes out in anger. It's
That's right.
something for men that's powerful. I can control it. I'm not weak if I'm angry, right? So it's an easy way to kind of put it out there. And then a lot of people with mental illness, a lot of people in general that aren't really educated, they get into what we call the victim mindset,
Hmm.
right? Where I will do anything to point the finger at anybody but me.
Exactly.
What's the problem? Oh, it's the women. It's this far left movement. It's the empowered woman who shot me down. That's the problem. And we have a lot of anger towards them,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Instead of owning like what's actually happening internally with me.
Hmm.
Like, why am I so frustrated? Why do I
Hmm.
have such a negative view of the world? Like, why is it so dark? And when you get communities of a lot of people with similar feelings, they breed off of each other. And like, there's actually good reports in a sense because they do feel like there's a sense of community and like they do relate to each other, which is a
Hmm.
positive. But it would be nice if there was like somebody with the healthy viewpoint to come in and be like, guys, let's actually talk about what's happening with this anger instead of displacing it and putting it on,
Right.
people that are rejecting you sexually
Yeah.
and explore, what's
Right.
actually happening. And then you have like the influencers, right? The Andrew Tates, the big male guys that are pushing certain agendas, which they found a population to make money off of.
Oh, big time.
So I'll target that. It's like just basic sales techniques. Like
Hmm.
what can I, who can I target?
Right.
Like it's funny because I listen to a podcast, Your Mom's House. It's with Tom Segura and his wife, Christina Pajinski. They're
Hmm.
comics. They've been comics forever, right?
Yeah.
They found Andrew Tate years ago
Okay.
and they had him on the podcast. it's a character. It's
Yeah.
not real,
Yeah.
right?
No.
But for the 14, 15-year-old boy, it's very real.
Yes.
And then
They
it's
feel understood. They feel accepted. They have guidance because maybe some of them don't have strong male figures, or they have absentee fathers, or they don't have a father at all, or their father has made them feel like crap. And this is a way. And I've seen it because I've listen. I was at a place where a young man that I used to sub. Actually, I was at a funeral and I haven't seen him in a long time. He's grown now, Daniel. He
yeah,
comes up to me and he's like, Miss Rice, Miss Rice. And I'm like, what's up? I haven't seen you. And he's like, you'll be so proud of me. Look at me. And then he shows me his bank account and then he's all proud of himself. And I'm like, oh, that's wonderful. He goes, you ever heard of Andrew Tate? That's when I found out about Andrew Tate. When he told me this and he goes, he's like my mentor. He's like, look, I got money. I'm big now. And I'm just sitting there like, oh, who? And I'm at a funeral.
yeah,
So I had to take that information. That's why I started going into that rabbit hole of going, who's this Andrew Tate? And I'm like, oh my goodness, oh my goodness. And I started listening because instead of judging him, I try to, like you said, try to analyze or disentangle of what is going on in our society and how do I become a better therapist by understanding what's happening.
of course. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So what do you do with like the emotional wounds that these young boys, young men are tapping into with this situation, like these things that are happening in our society.
For me, I mean, the biggest point is like education. I think, especially as a parent, um, we can't expect our kids to be vulnerable and to do the work if we're not willing to.
Oh,
Like,
wait, stop, drop, and say that again.
a parent that is like lacks vulnerability is not going to teach a kid vulnerability. Like, one of the things that is like a foundational piece of Transcend Wellness is that me, Catherine, and Emily all do therapy. We've been invested in therapy since I was 18 years old. I continue. I do just not like individual, I do couples. We do family sessions. Like my kids go. I sign up for like 6 month seminar things and go for a whole weekend. Like we believe in the process and we know it's just not the educational piece, it's just not the intellectual piece. You have to follow this stuff through,
Hmm.
right? And you have to be willing to do the uncomfortable. Like
Yeah.
we do a lot of therapeutic techniques in our house that seem kind of crazy. Like we don't suppress crying. You know what I mean?
What do you
Ah,
do? Okay, so we're going to go right there because listen, with my culture,
yeah,
all right, even us, like me as a young girl, I single immigrant mom, she was like, don't crying is don't be, I'm like, I am a female. I want to cry. I cry still, of course.
of
But do you
course.
see what I mean? But for the males, that is one thing I saw. You would get a beat down if you saw a male or a shame fest. I don't even know what to call it. Like what I saw with young boys or men growing up, and even now I still hear it within the community I'm in.
It's everywhere.
It is this whole like, don't be a, I'm not going to curse because this is a rated G family, but don't be a
Be a
beep.
man.
Yeah, yeah, thank you.
Be a
Because
man.
I hear the other one, don't be
Yeah.
a beep,
Mhm. Listen,
and
it starts from like think of the pacifier. Think about a baby. A
uh-huh,
baby's only way to communicate is to cry. That's what they have, right? And what do we do so often and so fast is we go, let me give you this thing to suppress that. Like they're crying for a reason. Babies just don't cry. They're
right.
communicating. And then it's a lot of our own uncomfortableness, right? That we have to suppress it again. Like it's hard to watch my 6-year-old lose his stuff. Like it is hard. And the part that wants me or to make it stop is my stuff. Like, why is it hard to watch my child in pain? Why can't I
Mm-hmm.
deal with that? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I tell clients all the time, my job as a parent is not to prevent my kids from feeling pain.
I love that. Oh my gosh, I'm going to make you say that again. Say that again.
It's not. Our job as parents is to not stop our kids from feeling pain. It's teaching them what happens when it occurs and how do you actually deal with it in a healthy manner because pain is going to happen to everybody.
That's right.
Like our clients that are trying to avoid pain and live these very isolative or like selective, I got to plan everything. Like you don't. You are capable. if you believe in yourself, you don't have to worry about everything in the future because you'll
Mm.
handle it the same way you've handled everything else. Like we've survived 100% of the stuff we've been through. It's a great statistic. You know what I mean? If I was in
I
a
love it.
video game, I would be crushing it.
Yeah, we have. If you're
Yeah.
listening, hey, listener, did you hear that? You have survived 100% of everything you've been through,
But
right?
little boys, you're right. It's a different environment. Like I am someone, my dad was a PhD therapist. I saw him cry one time.
Mm,
When my grandfather passed away, he lost it for about a week and
yeah,
then it was shut down again. He went right back to work. Like
yeah.
he's from Newark, New Jersey. It didn't happen. You know what I
No,
mean?
right. And it's a generation too, because that's something that comes into play. I'm Gen X. I think you're a millennial.
I'm 40. What does that make me? I don't
Oh, millennial? Oh,
know.
maybe a millennial. I think you're a millennial. And so, and then, the Gen Zs and then the Gen Alpha, because you're a father. So your littles are probably Gen Alpha. And the
Yeah.
reason I bring this up, because it is a generational thing, because I know the baby boomers, or even the ones that came before them when they were going through the Great Depression, like you could see that it's cultural and then subcultural and then lack of education, socioeconomic, lack of resources. So it's not just one thing. And that's not what
No.
Daniel and I are saying. But when it comes to men, like right now, how do you harmonize or balance this maleness? Because I also see in the church group, like the Christians that I know, the men like oh gosh, Mark Driscoll and stuff like that. I'm the man that needs to lead and and stuff like that. And I get it, but it's like, wait a minute. When it
Well, we
comes,
can do both. Like people forget. Like that's another thing. Like these extremes don't have to exist. Like you can be a sensitive man and be a leader. You can be
mm,
emotional and be strong. Like the most strength I've seen is somebody that can break down in front of another group. Like I tell my IOP guys, like every Monday I lead group and I go, it's amazing that we're sitting here.
mhm.
Like right
Hey,
now we have six. Huh?
explain what an IOP is, because some of my
Okay.
client, my listeners have no idea what that means.
So it's an intensive outpatient program. It's basically a step up from individual therapy. Individual therapy, like what most people think of going to therapy, is considered outpatient therapy. It's like going once a week, once a month. For
Okay.
people that need a little bit more, a higher level of care, the next step up is called intensive outpatient, which is a combination of an individual session once a week, and then you get 9 hours of group therapy and you also meet with our medical team. They do a full psych eval and then they can do medications if you want. So it's a more comprehensive program. If your symptoms are persistent and like you're seeing your therapist 2 to 3 times a week, IOP would be something that could really help you.
Okay.
In the combination of group and individual, I know a lot of people struggle with group, but statistically, it shows the best evidence. Like you want to get better quicker. There's
Yeah,
certain aspects of group therapy you're not going to get from individual, and there's
that's
things from
true.
individual you're not going to get from group. So to have both with the medical piece is just a nice thing. And our program's directly targeted at working professional men. For those guys that really can't afford to
Yeah.
take off 30 days and go to your residential treatment, our program is built around you where you can still go to work, you can still live at your house, but you get to come in, you get to do group technically 3 times a week, but we have a fourth group for alumni. You still do your individual and you meet with the doctor.
Wow.
Yeah.
Because I've never, I mean, I went from community mental health to school systems, so I've never been part of the, that kind IOP or the substance use, dynamics of things that we know and that you've been part of.
And it's a little wild because I run into practitioners, doctors, a lot of people that don't even know we exist, like an IOP exists and don't know that it's available for their clients. Like,
Yeah.
they don't have to have like really, really severe, psychosis to come into IOP. You could just have like, passive suicidal ideation. You'd be surprised how many successful men that are just miserable.
Yeah.
And they show up to work because they have to, very strong. They put on the mask, they make
Hmm.
a lot of money,
Hmm.
and they are just not fulfilled. They are deeply depressed
Yeah.
because these things that we're talking about, and no one talks about it. And on paper, they're supposed to be happy, and then they got it all, Like I
Yeah.
got it all. I got all this stuff and was miserable.
Right. So let's go there, because this is what we need to. talk about and normalize, right? And take the stigma away. I've had, I would say, like I said, like since I have my private practice, I've had probably two handfuls of men and successful men, like I'm talking about, like you're saying, and it is something like it's hard work with them because I think they're still a little like I'm the female or they have the mother issue thing or whatever it is or they need more like you just said because they're working 40 to 70 hours a week. They are
Crazy.
they and then they have to be this certain person at home for their wife. I mean, it's like a lot of stuff on their shoulders and on their back and they've never had the proper tools to really work all this stuff out. And then like I'm misunderstood at home. It's because they don't have the emotional connection with the wife because they were never taught how. I mean, how do you distinguish what's a personality and
Yeah.
what's actually like the unprocessed trauma?
Ooh. I mean, that one's a hard because a lot of men don't even recognize they've been through trauma. And I'm like, we'll talk about their childhood, we'll talk about some experiences, and I'm like, that's traumatic. Like, no one should be that terrified of their father, or, there's just so many underlying little pieces that seem normalized. Even being hit as a kid, that's traumatic. Like, I tell them, like, if you were to watch a little boy your age experience what you
Oh,
experienced, we do a lot of inner child work, and like that's a big thing for men because they can't be kind to themselves, but they can be kind to the little boy,
right.
or
Yeah.
even acknowledging their spouse is like, if they're angry and they're yelling, like picture them as a little girl or a little boy.
Oh,
That
you tell them that?
compassion, yeah, of course,
Yeah.
because it's different,
Yeah.
and that piece of us that's acting out is the wounded little child.
Mm.
It's not like if you ever watch two adults fight, just sit back. It's two kids.
Yeah, it's like two middle schoolers, really. Like,
Yeah.
fifth graders or sixth
Yeah.
graders.
Saying the
I mean,
meanest stuff to each
yes,
other, just poking, just
yes,
hurt, wounded,
yes.
angry, fearful, scared, and no one's like breaking. Like I tell people with couples stuff all the time, we only need one adult in the relationship at a time. But
Mm,
somebody's got to be it. Someone's got to be like, pause. Like this is too
mm,
much. Like we're in shock. Like somebody's got to be able to do it.
yeah.
So yeah, personality versus like maladaptive coping mechanisms. It's difficult. Like one of the best things that happened when I finally got sober is I lost everything.
Wow.
I lost the house, lost the job. My license to practice was pulled. I was sent to Florida. Oh yeah, yeah. I got
My
a full
goodness.
letter from the Attorney General of Georgia. You know?
Wow.
But
Sorry.
I was sent here with nothing. I was like stripped naked. And I was in a halfway house. I got a job at a diner serving eggs. Like completely lost. Like I couldn't introduce myself as Daniel the therapist. Like I didn't know who I was, but it was like the best thing ever because it's so hard when you have somebody that has this complete lifestyle built up around them
Hmm.
to really pull apart and see like what are the pieces that are actually making you happy? What are the pieces that are like disguising? Like one phenomenon I've been seeing a lot of is the 50 to 60 to 70-year-old male that's retiring.
Hmm.
And once the work is removed,
Hmm.
like
They
life
plummet.
crumbles because
They plummet.
they
Yep.
were truly probably work addicts, and it was high powered. It was a lot of stuff going on at once, and it
Hmm.
distracted them. And they had happy relationships. They raised kids. They did everything textbook wise. But all of a sudden, their biggest piece of identity was removed, and they just fall apart.
Yeah. Because that's a cultural societal thing as well. In this culture, I would say westernized,
Mhm.
first world
We
is
work towards it. It's
this is
wild.
what, yeah,
It's wild how
capitalism
many people
101.
have been sold like retirement's the thing to do, and then
Yeah.
they get there and they're like, "Oh, I don't like I've restructured all the ways I'm going to work. Like I plan on working later because I know my brain. I
Yeah.
need something to do. I'm not going
Hmm.
to do crazy hours, but I know I just can't sit at the house."
No.
Like,
And that's the thing. Like my husband's at that age. He's in his mid 60s and he talks about retirement and he's like, when I'm like, I'm never retiring. Retiring to me is when God takes me. That's
like
retiring.
if you can do it in a healthy manner, like do a podcast, see a few clients, like it seems it's still fun.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, for sure. But it's still like, I don't think, okay, we're going to go into a faith walk now
Sure.
because to me, the way I see life and the Word of God, and which to me, for me, the Word of God would be the Bible, and just my belief system. It's like, we're put on this earth for a reason and a purpose, and our story, no matter who you are, we have one. And some of us, like, we get so stuck in pain, right? I would say in pain because all the other emotions that are the ones that get us where we're stuck, it would be pain, I would think. The anger, like you were talking about, and the sadness and the blaming and the victim and stuff like that. But to me, I don't see it anywhere in the word that it says that we're supposed to retire. That's a man-made construct.
Well, it's, so many people have set rules, and it's not even like they made them up. They've just been passed down generationally to generationally. It's like when we talk about spirituality and the approach of it,
Mm-hmm.
one of my first things is like letting people know they're free to decide. Like they
Mm,
can make some choices. Like I have most of my clients work on like an old story and a new story.
okay.
So part of writing their old story is like all those old belief systems that have caused pain, anxiety, like there's never going to be enough money, feelings are scary. Like there's certain ones that are in my old story that come out with a lot of other people. But just even recognizing, like, hey, yes, you were born this, you were born that. That doesn't have to be the experience. You can choose based on new knowledge.
Mm.
Like, my father's Jewish, my mother's Southern Baptist,
Oh my gosh. That
dad's
that must have
from
been so confusing.
Oh, it gets weirder. My dad's from Newark. My mother's from Athens, Georgia. And then they're both like into Eastern spirituality. They follow a guy named Meher Baba, which is a whole nother thing. So as a kid, I wasn't Jewish, I wasn't Baptist, and then my family's involved in like this Eastern thing that a lot of people viewed as just weird, you know?
Yeah, or a
So
cult.
yeah, 100%. Like it's
Hmm.
known in Myrtle Beach. So a lot of just confusion, and like as a child you only want to fit in, so like I'm trying my best to like hang out with the Jewish kids over here, like do the ski trips with the Baptist church over here, like not letting people know my last name is Rubin over here, like it was so confusing. um and for me, I pushed all of that away
Mm.
because like I didn't want to buy into any of it because
Right,
like each side had its own negativity.
right.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
then as I got older, especially with recovery and like AA, thank goodness, like they introduced the idea of like creating your own God.
The
Like
higher power. Yeah.
you get to
It's the 12
decide
steps.
what the higher power is. And I was like, oh, let's just start making some cool stuff. Like I like reincarnation. Boom, I'm putting that into my little puzzle,
Mm.
right? Like I like the idea that we chose everything in our life. So before my soul came to this planet, I believe that I made a bunch of agreements. I picked everything. I picked depression, I picked addiction, I picked my parents, I picked my wife, and there's a journey. For whatever I go through, that pain was determined. I agreed to it, and it's a
Hmm.
learning process, so my soul evolves,
Hmm.
and each reincarnation is an opportunity for the soul to grow.
That sounds like in Hinduism.
It's a little bit of everything. I pull like if I read something I like, I'll put it in there. I tell people like if you want God to be smoking a pipe in the cloud, like
Hmm.
go for it. You know what I mean? Like make
Yeah.
this world fun. Like you can make sense of the things. Like it doesn't have to be so negative. And so many people are caught in their very narrow set belief system that they thought is the only thing that exists
Right.
and don't recognize like, yes, you can choose and yes, it will take time. Like this is a little cognitive behavioral therapy of like, it's gonna be repeated. You're not gonna believe it at first.
Hmm.
If you repeat it enough, eventually it becomes the new thought.
Right.
Right? Like I
Well,
just
it's a
did
rewiring of the brain. That's neuroplasticity.
Yeah, I didn't just buy into the spiritual belief, but
Hmm.
now that I've done it enough, it gives me relief. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? When I see something terrible in the world happen, I go, okay, I'm not going to judge it. I'm not God, but
Mm.
I know there's some higher purpose for everything that's occurring.
Yeah.
All these souls are learning some type of growth lesson.
Well, and we're responsible for ourselves. You
Yeah.
know, even though I am a disciple, follower of Jesus Christ, I call myself a Christian. I understand everybody that comes across my path is on their own path. And I'm not going to force or say things to judge them in a way where they're feeling crappy or, you know what I mean? That the guilt and the shame, because if you were raised half Southern Baptist, then I'm telling you,
Oh,
I
I got the
know.
fire and brimstone. I had an uncle that was a preacher. Like I remember Christmases, like with my cousins being like, "You're gonna burn," and I was like,
Yeah, you're going to hell. And I grew up Catholic with a little Santeria. I mean,
"Yeah,
my
yeah,
grandma was a Santeria medium, and then I married a Southern Baptist preacher's kid.
there you
And
go."
so that family, when I met that family, I'm, I love them, and I understand that this is how they're walking their journey on this earth. But I think, Daniel, and I don't know if you agree with this, but any human being that could say 100% I know, then God, the Lord, Great Spirit has ceases to be because now you have become God.
Well, I will even buy in. Like if that provides you comfort and that makes you happy, go for it.
Oh, I love that.
Right? Like when I tell my clients all the time, like I think things that make me feel good. Like I notice thoughts and stuff that don't, and I go the other way. Like whether it's your philosophy of life, your religious beliefs, like why not? What's the harm in going, this actually makes me feel good. So if I can sit there and Bob wants to believe like that this chapstick is everything
Hmm.
and he buys in and it gives him a happy life,
Yeah.
good for Bob.
Yeah.
Good for Bob.
So, but let's now distinguish because this is the next question because you're like feels good. If that feels good,
Hmm.
porn addiction in men.
Ooh. It's a heater right now.
Uh, and it makes me super sad
Yeah.
because it's affecting. Listen, when I was working with adolescent young males, when I started seeing 19-year-old boys with erectile dysfunction,
I will get
and
into some stats. Keep going. Yeah.
yeah, and it's exploding silently. Can you just break down in simple terms how porn rewires the male brain, and how do we go from if this makes you feel good
Yeah.
to this is really harming you?
Yeah. Well, I think that's a when we talk about this makes you feel good, you have to be able to distinguish like the real good in your life. Like McDonald's makes me feel good, but not really. It's a lie, right? So
Right.
like I have to when I say that to clients, we distinguish what's actually healthy for you. Like would you give the little boy the stuff you're talking about? So porn has become just it's evolved so much and I don't know if people know about the evolution. Like we went from still pictures, which was one thing, right? The magazines, even in the 40s when you had the black and white films, it was very hard to get,
Right.
right? And
And all the boys shared it. Like I mean, I know
boys shared
in the
it,
70s and the 80s, it was just like,
very limited.
right, you had the one Playboy magazine and they're passing it around.
Yes. And you would work with that one image for whatever. And it was just that was what we had. And then I think it's around 2006, right? Even before then, dial up. I remember AOL still. Dial up was a thing and porn was getting a little bit bigger, but there was still some deterrence. Like you had to download movies and it took a long time and there was a lot of risk of getting viruses. So it wasn't as much exposure, right?
Right.
But with high speed internet, I think it's around 2006,
Hmm.
that is the explosion. And this
Right.
is when these things called tube sites came up, which is like YouTube for adult videos.
Mm.
So now we have very high speed internet
Yeah.
and we have an unlimited amount of pornography.
Oh yeah.
And what it allows people to just not get unlimited amounts. It allows them to get into gender fetishes. Like it's
Everything.
wild. It's we call it like the crack cocaine of porn because what it does is it's so much more than the brain could handle. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Neuroplasticity, like we're teaching the brain all the time. Like
Yeah.
just think about it with any other substance. Like eating McDonald's once a month is cool.
Hmm.
Like, I know it's not the best, but it's not
Right.
going to kill you if you have it
Right.
once a month. If you're indulging in it 7 times a day,
Yeah.
like you are going to have a heart attack. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what internet did to pornography. And then, with that exposure, it causes people, it's like going from marijuana to cocaine to heroin. Like you need more and more, and then you need different things. Like
Right.
there's all these studies that are showing like the darker it gets, the higher the anxiety. Like the risk of getting caught increases the orgasm, which sends another signal to the brain, right?
Right.
So these guys are getting deeper and deeper into things that don't really agree with them. That's causing sexuality confusion. Like there's not that they're into X, Y, and Z. It's, the old Playboy picture just won't do
Mhm.
what the new stuff has done. So,
Yeah.
and it's wild. And then, people age-wise are being exposed to this stuff at a whole different level. Like a 13-year-old, when I was growing up, it was very hard. You had to like steal your dad's magazine if he had one.
Right. Or his
Nowadays,
DVD.
I mean, every 13-year-old I know has a phone
Yeah.
and they're smart.
Right. And
There's
parents really don't know. Like, honestly, like I'm a grandma, and so it's like I'm on my kids
yeah,
because, 8-year-old boys can go on YouTube and now they have it hidden porn. Like it's like their kid show, but it's not. And I'm sitting
no,
there like, and parents are busy. It's hard. I am a parent. To be on top of your kids 24/7, you can't do that. That's not
you can't.
reality.
And even if you have access to your kids' stuff, they have friends
Yeah, Finsta.
who have friends, right? And then there's so many other elements. Like it's just not porn now. It's internet strippers, which is a whole nother thing. Like,
Right. And
right?
AI. AI.
AI, like you used to have to go into, the sex store and go to the booth to see
Hmm.
these people or go to an adult nightclub. I have multiple men who have gone bankrupt
Wow.
from online relationships with sex workers, whether
Wow.
they're stripping online, um,
Right. OnlyFans.
OnlyFans. Yeah, they've given up everything because it is so addictive in the whole experience because they're losing regular sex. So if you start at 13 masturbating to pretty graphic material, and the hand is not the same as a vagina. It is
Hmm.
not the same as an anus. Like this grip, they call it the death grip in a lot of these studies,
Wow.
right? It's like the same as a female using a vibrator over and
Right.
over.
Right.
It desensitizes the head of the penis, the head of the clitoris. So we're not able to get off as fast,
Right.
right? We need more extreme material like
Yeah.
drug addiction to get off.
Yeah.
And then the actual, penis is being desensitized. So couple that with the sexual experiences, when a lot of these teens are showing up to actual sex, they
Hmm.
can't perform,
Yep.
have ED at a young age. Like this stat is crazy. In 1948 through 2002, men under 40, 2 to 3% had ED. 2 to
Okay.
3%. You
Oh,
ready?
that's yeah.
2010, it went from 14 to 33%.
Oh my gosh. So
It's
sad.
a
That
thousand
breaks
percent
my heart.
increase. So they're having these experiences where regular sex is doing nothing, and then it compiles with the mental, the self-esteem,
Yep.
right? And they go back to the behavior. It's like the drug loop. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? I'm
Yeah.
depressed because I'm using drugs, so I use
Right.
more
And
drugs, which
and this
causes
is
more
the
depression.
right. And it's the coping skill that made you feel good for that 1 second. It's the carrot that you're like, oh, I got
Yes.
it. And then it's like, or the slot machine or
Which is
oh,
another crazy. Like the gambling piece has done a pretty similar thing.
and video games.
Yes, in the accessibility, like the fact that you can gamble legit real money from your phone and like $1 million if I wanted to bet
Yeah.
is wild. But like the porn thing is just, and most people don't know,
Right.
right? They've really made it a very normalized part of life, and they don't even recognize that the possible inability to come or the ED or the fact that they don't like some people don't even want to have sex with their partner. It becomes the preference because let's like men and women, by the way, they're not doing the things that are in the movie.
No.
Like for most
And that's
couples,
not reality.
it's
Like,
not real
no.
and it's so extreme. Like even the actresses that are in the movie will
Right.
tell you like
Right.
this, don't let it be fooled. This isn't pleasurable. We're not
Mhm.
having fun. We're making money.
Yeah.
But the fantasy gets shown,
Yep.
right? And it's really sad because it's just everywhere. It's
Yeah.
affecting a lot of people and it's not talked about. There's so much shame about it.
Yep. And guilt
Yes.
and regret. And okay, so because now that we've uncovered and we're talking about it and we're two therapists that we understand the hidden things that people are struggling with, how, what can we give a listener? Say there's a man
Mhm.
or a woman, because I mean, I honestly have had a couple of clients that are addicted to porn.
Yeah.
So, what, how do you help them? What do
What
you
do we do?
do? What are the resources? Like, what do you give them? Like, what would you say to someone that like that has just come to you
Yeah.
and said, "Hey, this is the issue. Help me."
So there's an evaluation of where they're at. Right. So with most of my clients, it's like, all right, how extreme has this gotten? Like the same way I might evaluate an alcoholic or a heroin addict. Like, are you shooting dope or are you just snorting it? Like, are you drinking every day? Same thing happens with the porn and the sex. So there's an evaluation of what has it gone into illegal material? Like, are you breaking the law? Are you engaging past the computer? Are you getting into the prostitution realm? Are you doing the things physically? So based on that knowledge, I do come up with a plan. Like I have from the most extreme, there's the elimination of electronics. For some guys I know early on, we pull everything. And there's cool new devices. Like there's a light phone. It's pretty much a cell phone that can only text and call. So there's been equipment and pieces that have been because this thing is so real. Like yourbrainonporn.com, great website. Statistically, it's a good book. There's a book, but there's a website. It's got a bunch of stats like nofrap.com, the Reddit forum. I like SA and SLAA, Sex and Love Anonymous, and then Sex Anonymous. They're actually pretty porn centered nowadays
Oh, okay.
because it's such a thing. It's just not the videos either. It's the apps. It's the meetups. It's, there's a lot.
So what I'm hearing is accountability and being honest and actually to me because how in my belief system, right?
Mhm.
Satan wants to just steal, kill, and destroy and keep you isolated. So you start spiraling out and feeling alone. And
Yes.
that to me, what you just were stating, all the groups, all the is accountability and saying you're not alone.
You're
You're
not
not alone.
alone. There's a lot of people that struggle with this in the same way we would do it with any other type of addiction of having support. I don't care if it's AA, NA, church, some type of community. You need people you talk to about it.
Yeah.
That's number one. Um, and then like removing a lot of the triggers. Like for a lot of my guys, I do a deep clean. Like we go through, we determine, can you do social media at all? Can you do YouTube at all? Do you need any of these accounts? Like how clean do we need the electronics to be? Even with people that have electronic jobs, some have stepped away,
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of people that have lost a lot of stuff because the powerlessness that comes into play where they thought they would never violate these rules and
Hmm.
yet they find themselves in the position. So there's really like a willingness. You have to determine how willing the client is, like
Yeah.
because some people have not reached that point, and
Right.
there's a lot of pain that gets, watched because I'm like, hey, these are the suggestions. You can buy in if you want.
Hmm.
But yes, community, accountability, willingness. If they're willing, some type of 12 step is very helpful. We've
Yeah.
done medications like the
Okay.
same way, some antidepressants cause removal of libido. We've used it in our favor where you go, let's
Wow.
let's add that. Like this is
Okay.
so much
Right.
that especially when we're facing criminal.
Yeah. No, I mean, I can imagine criminal divorce, you're hurting your family.
Yes.
I mean, it's just like any other addiction, like you're
Yes.
stating. To me, too, I like to, I mean, is to teach them about their organs,
Yeah.
like the science of their brain and
Yeah.
make it, because I think that also helps them to understand, like, not to give them an excuse for doing what they're doing, but to have that understanding. And then what are we going to, now you have this information. What are you going to do
Yeah.
about it? Do you want to stay stuck? Then why are you paying me so money an hour then if you want to stay stuck?
Yeah. I do the educate, like I'm a disease model guy for addiction.
Right.
Like I believe it's a brain disease. I believe our brain speaks differently. It's like when you want to do the thing that feels good, is it
Yeah.
the addict brain or is it the rational, wise adult brain? So there's a
Mm,
lot of conversations about that in the natural process of like, yes, like my go-to thoughts are always the first thing I think is not good. Like I've recognized that. Like
mm.
it's been this pattern. And also I just lost it, but it'll come back. But yes, the addiction model of the brain is very
Yeah.
big with these guys.
Yeah, and so and I get it because hey, like that's a thing too. Like to teach young people, even though we might be clean now or whatever, there are consequences for these actions of addiction.
Oh yeah, that's what I was the process of addiction, the process of being sober, relapse, how easy it is when you have some sobriety to believe you're fixed. And like that's when it comes to really get you and understanding like a few weeks, a few months isn't gonna get rid of this forever.
Right.
And are you willing to continue that process of support and do what you need to do? So, and even the withdrawal piece, like a lot of people don't understand, like with porn and sex addiction, there is legit withdrawal. Like
Yeah.
it happens.
Hmm.
You feel bad. Like
Hmm.
your cravings go through the roof. Like
Yes.
you need the extra support.
Yeah. No, for sure. And that right there is like the extra support, the resources, the willingness to do the work even when you're tired. Because that's something I realized too with some of the clients I've had in addiction
Yeah.
is that like, am I ever going to get out of it? Yeah, you will eventually. And it's going, there's going to be things you have to do. And it's not just the let's remove the stuff. It's like,
Oh,
what are you putting in
yeah.
now? What are
Oh, a thousand
you,
percent.
right? What are you
Yeah.
changing? What are you, not only cognitive behavioral therapy, but what are you putting in your system? Because like you have anxiety now because of the situation, but are you now drinking 10 cups of coffee?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Look, sobriety is like step one for me. Like that was a great thing that happened, but there was so much other work that I needed to do through therapy, but I
Mm.
couldn't do it until I was sober. And that's a real struggle for a lot of people. They're like, I want to get to the underlying stuff. And I'm like, I do too. Like
Yeah.
I want to talk about your childhood with you, but like if we don't have long-term sobriety, like the brain isn't allowed to do that. It's like it's a bunch of
Yeah.
work that's not going to be
Yeah.
staying,
Your
you
brain's
know?
on fire,
Yes.
basically. Your brain's on fire, and or you're in a crisis because usually that's when people come to therapies and when they're in the crisis. But this is the thing is like it takes time to regulate. It takes time to put that fire out, to calm your soul, your spirit, your body, your mind to a place where now you can actually do the deep work,
Yes. And
right?
be stable enough that it doesn't trigger you going back. Like I don't
Right.
want any trauma to be opened up and you not be able to handle it. It's not responsible. Like I think you said, do no harm. I remember that is like our core. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And we can't do that if you're not ready, which means, and for a lot of people, it's a hard year. Like my first year getting sober sucked.
Yeah.
It was
So,
hard. I felt
yeah.
terrible. You
Because
know what I mean?
sometimes you have to change the community. I mean,
Everything. I
even
had to
though we
change
need new
everything.
community, yeah, you have to change friendships. You have
Yeah.
to change just the way you see things. The when you get fired up at home by somebody, that caused you, I don't want to say caused you because we're responsible for ourselves, but it's also understanding like the the community could have created the situation that caused why you went off and did the thing and did the
That's one of the hardest
addiction.
pieces. A lot of people do not
Like,
want to
yeah.
change some of those concrete pieces of their life they established, even
Hmm.
though they are huge triggers for them. Like, yes, they choose to be in that relationship, but like you can choose if your own health is getting jeopardized,
Right.
like you had to prioritize yourself. And it's like there's such a people pleasing aspect that comes into all this too,
Hmm.
which is so hard for people
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
really choose themselves, which is
Yeah.
another thing I think inherently is like taught with us, with people,
Hmm.
is this like taking care of others.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I think
Especially men,
yeah.
like that we're supposed to be the backbone of the family. We're supposed to support like and it's hard. Like I hear people say all the time, I don't want to be selfish. I'm like,
Right.
there's a difference here.
Yeah. And then it goes to the opposite end where some of the men and women are narcissistic and it's all about them. So, and I think that's just the hidden inner child that learned that, oh, I have to take care of, we could go into, we can spend a whole other hour talking about other things, but, if you could sit across from a man who's deeply lost right now,
Yeah.
right? Someone's listening and they just feel deeply lost, angry, isolated, addicted, ashamed and tell him just one truth he desperately needs to hear, what would it be?
You're not alone.
Mm. Yeah.
It's pretty, I mean, that's the finding out like that there was other guys just like me,
Mm.
that I'm not like this dysfunctional or broken, flawed human. I'm just a human going through experiences, was such a relief. Like that's so one of the great pieces of AA. It's just so widely available to like hear other people go, "Oh, you think that's bad? You think your 13 felonies as a therapist was bad? Well, I was a doctor and I did X, Y, and Z." It's like, oh, damn.
Yeah.
Like there is
Yeah.
hope
There's.
out there, but if we stay isolated,
Hmm.
we stay alone and we don't talk, we're never going to get better.
That's
And for
right.
men, that's like the biggest piece, like that willingness. Like 99% of the guys that come into IOP tell me they'll never do th group therapy. I've had so many men that sit in my circle and they won't even introduce themselves to me the first group because they're just pissed. Like their family sent them here, whatever happened, they're like, I'm not doing this. And every one of them, 100% so far, has
Yeah.
like, this is so good. I feel so much better connecting with another human,
Yeah.
especially another man who gets what I'm going through.
Yeah. I mean, like you said earlier, that we are tribal and it depends on and we get to create the tribe little by little, learning new things, rewiring the brain. There is hope. And as a woman who loves men, I have two sons, I have a husband, I have two grandsons. I just want it's not about us, I'm leading or you're leading or whatever it is. It's about us coming together in a community to be healthy together, to do what God has created us to do in a healthy environment, to be successful citizens of our community. And how do we do that? It is about looking within ourselves because it's not just a man problem or a woman problem or it is an us problem, but there are actual solutions.
Yeah. I
So,
mean,
yeah,
communication. Like
com-
most of us do not know how to really talk
exactly.
or listen. Like me and my wife do these check-ins. We sit across from each other. Everything goes off. We set a timer, and it's
Mm,
just one of us is holding space for the other to just say whatever we need to say. And there's no fear. There's no judgment. To just really communicate, like,
mhm,
and be okay with that other person being angry or upset or whatever they need to do. And
mhm,
no, like they're not going anywhere. Like it's okay.
right.
That level of communication is very rare, I think.
It's because our society, we learned to listen, to respond, and not to understand.
Yeah. And men love to fix. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
yeah.
They're so fast to jump in there and give me a solution. No, just hear, just
Yeah.
listen.
Well, it's awkward, and that's the thing about personality. And it's respecting each other and loving each other, but understanding what respect and love is truly is in a healthy, holistic way, not in what you thought it was back in the day. Like, oh, this is what I saw with my parent. Like you said earlier too, it's like two young children that did not do the inner work get together and then they're trying to find the solutions in each other instead of sitting still to me with creator and really do the hard deep work, and it takes time, it takes money at times to do it, and it just takes a lot of patience for yourself and just that I call it solo serenity. There's isolation, which is
Yeah.
unhealthy when you're isolating and like you said, you're whacking it to a porn or playing video games too much or whatever it is, and then there's actually the serenity, the solo serenity when you are alone in creation and nature and going, all right, here's my, I'm surrendering everything to you. Because you had to do that, Daniel. Like what you
Yeah.
just told me, you lost everything. That means you were at that deep, that dark night of the soul,
Yeah.
right? And then that's when everything shifted. And so, listener, everything can shift for you too. Like, and you're not alone, like Daniel said. And getting help is not a form of weakness. It's actually a form of strength because you're not meant to be alone. So, anyway, Daniel, how can people find you?
Oh, so southfloridamentalhealth.com is our website.
Mhm.
If you want my number, I'll give out my number on the podcast.
You are too brave, dude.
404-668-8369.
Okay.
It's for everybody.
Wow, Daniel, that is that like you won't get my phone number.
Well, that's another thing about like Transcend Wellness, man. When we
Yeah.
came in to do the IOP, we
Yeah.
wanted to do it way different. We feel like the treatment model's super broken. Like we only take 12 guys at a time. Most
Okay.
other facilities, they can take 15 clients per therapist.
Oh, wow.
We
Yeah.
have 4 therapists for 12 clients.
I
It's a
love that.
3-to-1 ratio. Me, Catherine, and Emily are all licensed clinicians with 15 years of experience. Like we, with the medical team, make all decisions based on client care. There's nobody in the back room trying to make money. There's no business development team. There's nobody dictating what should happen in our treatment center besides licensed professional people that only want to help.
I love that.
So, like when I give out my number, it's because I'm battling giants.
Yeah,
And
you are.
if I can help one person actually get to a legit place,
Mm-hmm.
because there are other good places, but there's so much other marketing material. Then I hear clients tell me all the time, like, God help me, and he picked me up and put me in Illinois in a treatment center. Like, no, you got misled through internet marketing, and
Mm,
you ended up someplace and
yeah.
sold a bill of goods that wasn't good. Like,
Can I ask you, do you take insurance?
yes, so we
Okay.
take commercial insurance that has out-of-network benefits.
Okay.
So we do all the billing, and also I'm the finance guy. Like I'm the one that does your money. So
Mm-hmm.
I work with everyone. Like I'm not saying you don't have to pay, but I will sit down with you and I will do a payment plan. Like I have some people paying me a few $100 a month because they're
Wow.
motivated, they want to do
Yeah.
it. We agreed on a plan. And we also just started taking care credit. It's 48 months, zero interest. So like I don't want treatment to be unreachable.
Right. Especially that kind. Let me tell you, Daniel, because that's different. That's unique. That's why you're on the show because it's different
Listen,
and
it doesn't
unique.
exist. The
Yeah.
numbers, like you're not going to get this much attention. Like not just my cell phone goes out, Catherine and Emily's numbers go out to all our clients. Like we're
Right.
available. You're going to get more.
Right. And so can I ask with it's not online though. It has to be in
No.
person with you?
So our groups are all in person. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, 6 to 9 is the main programming. We can do your individual session online and we can do the medical appointments online. So if you're working during the day and you need your noon session during lunch,
Mm-hmm.
we can do it. I also do individual therapy outside of the IOP.
Okay.
Um, and I can do those online. I like in person,
Yeah.
but I mean, about 50% of my caseload does
So
online stuff.
so for the IOP, it it has to be like anyone that's willing to drive there.
Yes.
Okay. And so where exactly are you located?
So we are in Fort Lauderdale off 26th Street. It's technically the Wilton Manors area.
Okay.
Um, but yes, you'd have to drive. I mean, listen, virtual IOP exists.
Hmm.
It's really hard to
Yeah.
get what you want to get in a 9 hour virtual group.
Right.
Like, I get the marketing aspect and I get that people promote it, but like, I want to offer quality. Like, we're selling my reputation, we're selling Catherine and Emily's reputation. So, I would feel bad. I wouldn't feel like I'm doing you clinically like justice if I
Mm.
was to take your money and tell you that a virtual IOP is the same as an in-person IOP. Yeah, it
Right.
could get me more clients, but I don't want that. I want to
Yeah.
be good and
Yeah.
offer a legit service. So yeah,
Yeah.
but we have people. I've had people drive from Boca, Delray, all over.
Yeah.
Because it is
If they're willing, then why not? I'm just thinking like maybe in the future, God's gonna have you open up places in different states because listen, people listen from all over this
this
country and world to the Holistic Counselor podcast. So like they're gonna be like, hey, how do I work with Daniel? And
I
so
would love it. It would be amazing. Like it's always been our vision, but only if we can keep it intact. Like one of the
exactly.
thing that we say is like you get me, Emily and Catherine, like the experience is there, not to offend other treatment centers, but there's a model. Like you're in private practice for a reason. We move from the facilities because as much money as they make, which is crazy because I see the cars they drive, they
Hmm.
pay their therapist not a
Poopy.
lot of money.
Sorry.
So
Yeah.
you leave naturally
Yeah.
to go into private practice or something that can better enhance your life. So like
Yeah.
it's rare to see a treatment center that has the experience, the fully
Right.
licensed. Like we don't bring in any facilitators, and if we
Right.
ever do, like Jess Garrett comes in, Amy Hagerstorm,
Ah,
and
yeah.
like
Yeah. She was on the podcast.
yeah, really
Yeah.
educated, well-known,
Mhm.
legit
Right.
people are doing any service that we offer, which is another thing. But yeah,
Yeah.
it
Okay.
just it feels good to have a good product, you know?
Yes. Well, it is a product and it's also your lived experience that is your story, your wounded healing coming into play where now it's time to pass the baton and you've been given this gift because it is a gift. Like to me, me being a therapist is a gift. Sometimes it's a very exhausting thing, but I also know this is part of who I am at this
Yeah.
moment. Not that I will be, like you said, like my dream would be to do psychoeducational training through my other company and continue the podcast while I pass the baton as a qualified supervisor, et cetera, and maybe have a handful of clients. But it's not about, honestly, it's not about me. It's about me surrendering every day, one day at a time, right? One day
Yeah,
at
I
a
love
time,
it.
one
Look,
day at a time.
this is like I got the fantasy. You know what I mean? Like when they talk about the dream, like I literally got it from having nothing. So if I was sitting across from that guy, like you would be surprised. Again, I try not to judge any experience because like all these terrible things that happen got me the dream. It got me the
Yes.
wife, it got me the three kids, it got me the business, it got me being on this amazing podcast today,
Aw.
right? Like all that pain showed up in a different way.
Right.
And if you guys can believe, like just to instill a little hope
Hmm.
that it's possible. You don't have to like just it's possible. Then amazing stuff can happen.
Amen. Yeah, I love that, Daniel. Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank
And
you for having me. I appreciate it.
yeah, and listener, please do not forget to trust in the Lord, guard your heart, and renew your mind. Bye. And now for the disclaimer to make sure you understand that you are responsible for you. The content provided on the Holistic Counselor podcast is for entertainment and informational purposes only and is not intended as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified mental health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical or mental condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay seeking it because of something you have heard on this podcast. The views expressed on this podcast are my personal opinions and do not represent the views of any professional organizations with which I am affiliated. Call your doctor, 911, or 988 immediately if you have a medical emergency. The Holistic Counselor podcast does not recommend or endorse any specific tests, physicians, products, procedures, opinions, or other information that may be mentioned on the podcast. Reliance on any information provided by the Holistic Counselor podcast, guests appearing on the podcast at the invitation of the Holistic Counselor podcast, or other listeners to the podcast is solely at your own risk. Confidentiality notice. If you engage with the Holistic Counselor podcast by commenting or posting and are a client, please be aware that you may be revealing information that could compromise your confidentiality. Please remember that disclosing your identity or personal details can be linked to your clinical material. As a therapist, I am bound by confidentiality and will not respond to any disclosures of this type on this podcast. I am committed to upholding the ethics and confidentiality of the therapeutic relationship, which extends to all forms of communication in accordance with the laws and professional guidelines that govern mental health professionals. I want you to know that your privacy is of utmost importance, and you are responsible for protecting it when interacting on this platform or any other public forum. Thank you.